Hi everybody, so for this installment we are going to give making a couple of little pots a go. What we plan to do is to make a couple of different little pots, just little simple pinch pots, air dry them for a couple of days, and then we're going to fire them just in the fire pit. And if some of you who have been following us before in our other Skills of the Ancestor programs will know that we have done this before in a proper pit kiln under the direction of John Martin, but given the circumstances this year we can't do it, so it's just more demonstrative than anything else. I have some potter's clay, some terracotta with me, but just as way of comparison, this is my back garden obviously, but it's a little hole I've dug in the back garden, and I've taken it right down onto the natural subsoil, which I live in County Down, and County Down, the natural subsoil is really firm sort of orange boulder clay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take some of this and some of the terracotta pot, and we're going to make two different styles of pot, the two different clays, just by way of comparison. That's the plan anyway. So I'll go and I'll dig some of this out and take out the stones, and then I'll get the terracotta sorted out around about the same quantities, and we'll try and make the pots then. So this is us just back inside. Don't know when that's going to show up. That's just some clay from the back garden. So I'll need to just work through this and kind of pick out all the wee bits of stone and bits of plant root and all in that. So I'll spend the next 10 or 15 minutes just going through that, just breaking it all up before we bind it together to make a clay. This is our commercial potter's clay. It comes in kind of slabs like that, and this says on the packet that it makes a terracotta sort of a colour. You can see it's actually quite grey now. By the feel of it, it does have grit or sand already added into it. But what I want to do is I'm just going to put in some shell. This is crushed seashell, crushed oyster shell. So I'm going to make one with just this and one with the shell added to it as well, just to compare them. Quite often, especially in prehistoric pots, you do get different additions into the clay, thing we call temper. You know, you can get shell, you can get crushed up flint, you can even get crushed up other stone like porcelainite and basalt into the clay as well, or you can actually get crushed up pottery, a thing that is called grog included in this. So this all improves the firing capabilities of the clay and gives the pot different characteristics, different colours, different hues as well. So what I'll do is I'll work my way through my garden clay and eke out all the little stones, and then I'll measure out and get the same quantities for all three. Okay, so I've sorted through the clay from the garden and taken out all the stones. Now I've left all the very, very small little grit in it, because you know life's too short for going through it with the fine tooth comb, picking everything out. So I have three quantities of clay here, 1, 2 and 3. These are the two kind of commercial potter's clay, and this is the clay from my garden, and I'm going to add the oyster grit, the seashell, crushed seashell to one of these commercial clays here, just to test the difference. So we've got 3 lots of approximately 300 grams of clay. So we're going to make 3 just simple little pinch pots, and yeah, it just takes a wee bit of time to work through the clay to kind of make it a bit more malleable. But once I've done that with the 3 of them, I'll get back to you. Okay, so this is our 3 balls of clay that hopefully we're going to turn into our little pinch pots. We have the back garden clay on the left hand side there. We have the plain commercial clay in the middle, and then we have the commercial clay plus 10% shell in that little ball there. Now each of these balls is 300 grams, so I've added 30 grams of shell. So what I'm going to try and do is make the pinch pots. I'm going to set up the camera on a little stand here, hopefully so you can actually see me making one of the pinch pots, and it'll give you an idea of what I'm doing. But basically all I'm going to be doing is putting my thumb into the center and just gradually building up the wall of the pot. And I want to make these pots all relatively the same size.
Okay, so I don't know how this is going to turn out. I've kind of got the phone pressed up against a number of different objects. I'm just scared if I move the table at all, the phone is going to fall over. So this may work, it may not work. So I'll just do this one here, just to give you an idea of what I'm doing. First of all, I want to just kind of, we're starting off, it's supposed to be about the size of a tennis ball, or just a wee bit less maybe. And I want to try and get as much of an even sphere as I can. Now, I don't want, see little sort of cracks in the surface, I don't want them. So I want to just dip my hands in a wee bit of water and rub it over the clay, and that actually creates a little slip on the clay, and just kind of fills in that crack and smears it over. So I'm going to go in here with my thumb into the top of the clay ball and push it as far as I can all the way down. Now I don't want to go all the way through the ball of clay. You see it's actually starting to crack quite badly, so we just keep on wetting it and filling over these cracks. I don't want to go all the way through the clay, because what I'm going to, the end of my thumb is actually going to stop at the base of the little pot. That's the case then of just working your thumb and your finger around into the water, constantly try and manipulate the clay. Oops. See, move the table slightly. Okay, so you can see this is cracking quite badly around the top, and that might have something to do with the fact that we have not put any temper into this ball. This is just the pure clay. Although by the feel of it, it seems as if it's got some sort of sand, grit in it already. But we'll just take our time and work our way around, fixing all these little cracks. Don't know if any of you has ever watched the Pottery Showdown, but I'll not be auditioning for it, I don't think. So these are little things, what we call pinch pots. Now the other way to make pottery that's a lot more time consuming is a thing we call coil built. And what you'd do is you'd actually roll out long sausages of clay and kind of build them up and up and up and up that way. I thought I'd make life easy for myself. Now, so at this point we want to kind of decide how big we want the pots. If we make them too big, the walls will be very, very thin. And the pot might crack in the fairing. And if we make them too small, the walls will be very thick and it would take ages for the pots to actually dry. So I'm going to go somewhere between maybe about ½ centimetre in thickness. And you can just use your hand, your finger and your thumb on the way around to try and gauge the thickness of your clay. Here. Now, you can see with the way I'm doing it there, you are kind of building up a sort of a little pot shape. Now this is cracking quite badly, so it's going to take a wee bit of time of me just playing about with the clay and to try and fill in them cracks, kind of bond the clay together. So it's actually one vessel, one complete vessel. That's the thing about it, you know, you take your time, you play about with it, you know. And, you know, you think you're getting nowhere with it, But in the end, it just all kind of comes together. So when this little pot's made, and all of them are made, I will want to dry them before I fire them. Right, we could cheat a wee bit. I'm not going to cheat unless we absolutely have to. But I'll leave these, weather permitting, I'll leave these out in the air to air dry slowly, which would be better. Try and guard against the cracking of the clay. If the worst comes to the worst and the weather takes a turn for the worst, which it is due to do, what we can do is actually take the hairdryer too. I'm sure Neolithic and Bronze Age people would have had their hairdryers handy in their little roundhouse. But sure, if you don't tell anybody, I won't. So it's a case just then of manipulating the clay around. You can see I've started to fill in all those little cracks. It's around about 1/2 centimetre thick. And it seems to be quite even, a bit thicker there, a wee bit. Oh, got a massive crack in it there. Okay, I'm going to call that complete. I'll bar a little bit of cosmetic. Just finishing off the wee rim here. So as I say, it's a very simple rim. If you go to museums and all, you see some of these prehistoric pots, they've got very elaborate rims, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'm not sure if these pots are actually going to survive the firing process. Usually you would have like a professional kiln, or even the pit kilns that we've done previously. It's a lot easier to regulate the temperature than what I'm going to do. You never know. Sure, it's all a bit of crack in them. And again, just tap it on the bottom. Try and, if you want this to sit upright. So that's our first wee one. Done. So the trick is going to be now to replicate that and to try and make the other two sort of the same size. What I am going to do, just so we don't use where we are, I'm just going to get the knife and I'm just going to put a little one in the side of it there, so we know which one that is. Okay.
So after a while, and after a lot of kind of manipulating the clay and a wee bit of cursing, that is our 3 pots made. So this is this little pot, the first one that you saw being made. That doesn't have anything in it, that's just pure commercial clay. This is our little back garden clay. And this is the one with the 10% shell added into it, and you can see bits of the shell kind of poking through the clay there. So the case now is to leave them outside in the backyard and let them air dry, and they'll take quite a while to air dry, but we'll keep checking on them. So one thing I don't want to happen is for cracks to appear in the wall of the clay. If that happens and we put it into the fire, it'll just, moisture might get into that crack and it'll blow, or it'll fall apart. So if that does happen, we just take a wee bit of water and kind of smooth it over and make sure everything is nice and tight and held together. Okay. They're not pretty, but hopefully they'll demonstrate what we're trying to do anyway.